I unexpectedly met a very interesting family. While traveling, Ben Dorton and his wife and children were invited by them to play at the farm over the weekend, but after the lavish outdoor barbecue and an afternoon walking through the fields, enjoying the beautiful nature, Ben wanted to go home, but they kept stopping him with endless reasons, until he realized the real secret of the host family. The Dorton family was paralyzed in fear. That was the beginning of the horrifying series of events in Speak No Evil. The horror film released this year is a remake of the original film of the same name from Denmark, directed by James Watkins. Deeper into the potential dangers and how our kindness is exploited by others. Are you ready to decode the whole Speak No Evil with film focused yet? Note that the video will reveal a lot of important information about the film, so this is a spoiler alert for all of you. To mend their marriage. Due to Lewis's infidelity, Ben Dorton decided to take his wife and daughter, Agnes, to Italy for a vacation. There, they met and became friends with a couple, the outgoing man, Paddy and Sierra, and their son Ant, who was speech impaired. Shortly after, Paddy sent an invitation for the whole Dorton family to come to his remote farm for the weekend holiday, excitedly urging his wife. Ben thought this was a good opportunity for Agnes to get acquainted and experience new things. The first day they met was wonderful. When Paddy and Sierra showed themselves to be hospitable and friendly, the longer they stayed, Ben and Lewis noticed more and more abnormalities in Paddy's lifestyle. He was stubborn and headstrong, violent and impulsive, and most dangerous of all was his inappropriate behavior in raising Ant. But every time they tried to leave, Paddy and Sierra always found ways to keep them there, for countless reasons. More surprisingly, when Ant, the shy boy, had the chance to reveal the truth to Agnes, it was revealed that Paddy and Sierra were actually con artists, who lured wealthy families to their home, then tried to kill them. Worse, they even kidnapped the children of the unfortunate families, under the guise of a happy family. Paddy and Sierra conned countless victims, and when they were done, they would cruelly kill the child and continue their hunt for new prey. Shocked by the secret, both Ben's family and young Ant experienced a haunting moment of life and death before Sierra was pushed from the second floor by Lewis, killed, and Paddy was also killed by Ant with a brick. One of the things that makes Speak No Evil so scary, creates a sense of unease for the viewer, comes from Paddy's violent nature. His excessive aggression is unnatural. It's not normal that just a few seconds ago, he was friendly and happy, but soon after he appeared scary. Not to mention, he often makes others obey him, or forces them to do things they don't want to do. When Ben's family first arrived, Paddy forced Lewis to try a piece of goose that he had painstakingly prepared, even though she was a vegetarian. If you look at the storyline, this is perfectly normal, because it had been a few months since they met in Italy. So Paddy must have forgotten that Lewis was a vegetarian, and did not use any meat products. But the next day, when the two couples were eating at the restaurant, Paddy continued to force her to use meat dishes, even though Lewis reminded him. He kept mocking and taunting her. He even mocked Lewis's eating habits, making her unhappy. Paddy's hostile attitude increased in many different directions. At the most unexpected time, psychiatrist William H.J. Martin, author of the article The Hidden Pain of a Psychopath, believed that Teddy showed signs of having the syndrome, sociopath, also known as antisocial personality disorder, antisocial, and not caring about other people's feelings, like Paddy's treatment of Lewis, is just one of the many symptoms of this disease. Accordingly, patients often act impulsively, easily prone to anger outbursts. Moreover, they try to rationalize their behaviors, lacking social norms, always trying to lie, and cover up their abuse of others. Most patients with antisocial personality disorder, antisocial, suffer psychological trauma as a child, in families with unhealthy lifestyles. This leads us to the real motive behind Patty's robbery, towards the unfortunate victims he hunted. The truth about Patty and Sierra is hidden throughout most of the film. Even when Ant tries to warn Agnes, we still wonder what their real motive is. The story of Patty and Sierra trying to kill people and stealing all their belongings is quite clear. The problem is, why didn't they kill all the family members? Why did they go to the trouble of keeping the child? Why did Patty keep most of their personal belongings and the photo he took with the families after killing them? In a moment, Patty and Sierra shared that they had tried to have a child and miscarried when they were 12 weeks. Although there is no information to confirm that this is true, or that it's part of a plan to manipulate Ben and Louis, but it shows that Patty and Sierra actually planned to build a perfect family facade to cover up their crimes. Normally, families with children easily build trust and a good impression. From there, Patty could approach and lure the victims into the trap that was set. If you look at it from this perspective, Patty and Sierra's sharing of their desire to have children would quickly win Ben's sympathy and Louis. However, during the meal, Patty talked about how parents can ruin their children by imposing their beliefs and ideals in their parenting. In a way, Patty's words show that part of his childhood. It's likely that he had been a victim of his parents' twisted thinking, leading to the mental instability we see in the film. So when he kidnapped the children from other families, Patty quickly became disappointed because they weren't what he expected. He was ready to show aggression, unnecessary violence to Ant in front of everyone. He and Sierra even tried to teach everyday activities for little Agnes, making Louis very uncomfortable. This act marked the moment Patty and Sierra were ready for a fresh start with Agnes and could eliminate Ant at any time. From this we can clearly see Patty and Sierra's motive when they constantly change the children. On the one hand, both of them could change their identities to avoid being recognized. More deeply, we want to find the child he considers suitable enough to carry a part of his personality, or in other words, he wants to manipulate, turn them into mini versions of himself. This explains why Patty was so happy at the end of the film when Ant decided to use a brick to kill him. He said, "Now that's my son," as if confirming he had successfully awakened the violence inside the boy. The shy little boy in a short time. He and Ant are eerily similar. Having Ant, instead of Ben, be the one to finish off Patty becomes a highlight for the whole work. It shows that children raised in an environment of physical and mental abuse can ruin their future. On the other hand, Ant is a miniature image of Patty as a child, full of hurt, anger, and fear. During the hunting trip with Ben, Patty expressed his joy when chasing prey. He said the most important thing when hunting is not whether you have the courage to take action on the prey or not, but it lies in the act of luring it step by step into the trap you set. If you look at it in the context of the film, this is a line that clearly shows the disease, antisocial personality disorder, that Patty suffers from. Many psychiatrists point out, the act of lying and deceiving to exploit others is a symptom of the disease. It shows that the individual patient often does not feel remorse, regret, but often tries to rationalize their actions. For that reason, Patty constantly seeks new prey, not only to rob but to satisfy the beast in him. When he gets to be the hunter, he gradually plans to bring the victim to their death. Personal belongings, photo taken together, even expensive watches that he kept in the closet, are like trophies from each hunting trip. Inhumanity. When Ben's whole family tried to escape, they locked the door, locking Patty and Sierra inside the room. At this moment, Sierra begged them to take her with them, because she was Patty's first victim. Is this true? The fact that Sierra was Patty's victim is scattered throughout the film. In one scene, Louis saw many bruises on Sierra's stomach, like she'd been beaten for a long time. Of course, at that time, Ben and Lewis hadn't discovered the truth yet, so Sierra's injuries were confusing. Because in front of Ben and his wife, Patty always acted like he loved his wife. He even got overly affectionate. Also, when they were eating at the restaurant, Sierra and Patty revealed the frequency of their intimacy. It also raised suspicion that, was Sierra a victim of Patty's abuse? And physical and mental abuse. According to Sierra, she and Patty had been together for 17 years. If you consider the age difference between the two, this is very strange and inappropriate. In addition, if you remember the story, Patty's hobby of collecting trophies that belonged to the victims, like their watches or luggage, you'll see there's a difference in the number of unfortunate families. Based on the album that Ant showed Agnes, there are a total of 8 families, including the ONT family that was murdered, but Patty's closet has 9 watches. If you look closely, we can make a hypothesis. The first watch in Patty's collection once belonged to Sierra's family. Finally, when Patty realized that Sierra was dead, he controlled Agnes but had no intention of killing her. He said that now he's alone, so he'll let Agnes live to take care of him. From this we can see the whole picture of the relationship between Sierra and Patty. As follows: 17 years ago, Patty got acquainted with Sierra's family and killed them. But he didn't kill Sierra, but nurtured her step by step, manipulating and seducing her into becoming an accomplice, a victim. At the same time being influenced by toxic thinking. Gradually, Sierra developed feelings for him. She accepted being abused and became Patty's wife. Between them existed a warped kind of love, teetering on the edge of victimhood and love. In a way, Sierra despised Patty, but on the other hand, she was also infatuated with him and dependent on him. Together, Sierra represents the children who are traumatized growing up due to improper parenting by adults towards children. After being arrested, Ben asked Patty why he tried to kill his family, and Patty cheerfully replied, "Because you allowed me to do so." Most families come to Patty's farm themselves. After being invited by him, they all seemed polite and happy when they made new friends. You can't say that Patty's victims were naive, or that his plan was too perfect. On the contrary, in most cases, Ben and Lewis could have made a different choice, like not going to Patty's house or leaving earlier. The problem is, they were all out of politeness. That made the wrong decision. As a wake-up call, speak no evil is evidence of how dangerous it is to disclose personal information. Upon meeting, Ben had poured his heart out. The fact that he had just transferred and was in the process of finding a new job, or the not-so-good relationship with the neighbors. So nobody remembers them, even if it was just a social courtesy. But Ben unwittingly told strangers too much about his family. This created an opportunity for Patty to plan to lure them into the trap that was set. You can't say that this is entirely Ben's fault, but in today's world, his actions put his whole family in danger. It shows that the outside world isn't really a safe place, and high vigilance is always necessary. This somewhat explains why the film is called Speak No Evil, or Don't Speak Evil. If only Ben or Lewis had been more assertive, dared to speak up about what bothered them, without worrying about offending others, maybe Agnes or Ant would not have had to go through a terrible nightmare. To reduce the gravity in the way the message is conveyed, at the end of the film, when Ant cried uncontrollably because of his lasting trauma, Agnes gave him his favorite stuffed rabbit, as if confirming that children represent the next generation, can build a brighter future with kindness but also with firmness and integrity. As mentioned, Speak No Evil, directed by James Watkins, is a remake of the Danish film of the same name, produced in 2022. However, this remake is only about 70% similar to the original film. Instead of Patty killing Ben's whole family, director James Watkins lets them fight to reclaim their lives from the hands of death. This reversal of the characters' fates not only makes the second half of Speak No Evil more tense and exciting, but also helps us see Patty and Sierra's past more clearly, as well as showing how wrong parenting can lead to bad consequences. However, the point that makes me enjoy this remake lies in the fact that director James Watkins makes Lewis, Agnes, and Ant more proactive when trying to expose the villain. You should know that in the Danish version, young Ant was taken away and killed right after dinner. Upon discovering Ant's body, Ben immediately woke up his wife and children and ran away. But he didn't explain clearly everything to his wife and daughter. This led to Patty catching up and controlling the whole family. To change that tragedy in the remake, Ant repeatedly tried to explain and showed Agnes the evidence of Patty's crime. This gave her the chance to talk to her parents, helping the four of them to be ready to fight evil. For the audience, the new ending helps the message, the importance of proper parenting, of the film become more prominent. At the same time, young children knowing how to protect themselves can create a reversal of fortune. Personally, I think this is the main reason why Agnes and Ant were cast. Director James Watkins intentionally chose two older children than the original. Not only makes the storyline tighter, but also ensures that Agnes and Ant have enough maturity in their actions and thoughts. Moreover, it shows how important children's opinions are. It's not hard to see that most families haven't really listened to their children. We are always caught up in the cycle of life, so we often unintentionally ignore them. And speak no evil is evidence that we just have to listen carefully. We will be startled by the wisdom and clarity of the children. It can be said that Speak No Evil is a rare case. The remake can surpass the shadow that the original had left behind. James Marvo's transformation is superb, makes the viewer shudder every time Patty appears. The tense and fast-paced rhythm of the film is constantly accelerated, making the unease in the audience's heart rise. However, that said, the film still has a few points that don't really satisfy the audience. Like how Ben's family escaped so easily from Patty's control, or the character Mike, Patty, and Sierra's accomplice. Whether he appears or not doesn't really matter. Moreover, Agnes quickly grabbing the syringe with the tranquilizer, then stabbing Patty at the end of the film, causing him to collapse, hasn't convinced the picky critics. The drag in a few scenes also feels redundant. However, if you ignore these flaws, then Speak No Evil is still a worthwhile film to watch this year.